Okay, so have you ever, like, I don't know, actually looked inside your laptop, like at the circuits and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Well, on today's deep dive, we're going to be talking about the brains behind all that hardware, computer hardware engineers. We've got a ton of info from RoleCatcher to dig into, so let's get started.
Yeah, most people think about hardware engineering as like super technical,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But one of the interesting things that RoleCatcher found is that it actually takes a lot of creativity too.
Hmm.
Like it's not just about knowing the technical stuff. It's about, solving problems and coming up with new ideas, for future technology.
Totally. So it's not just about like building a computer, it's about building the future of technology.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
And you can really see that in the skills that RoleCatcher talks about.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
So obviously you need the technical skills, right? That's a given.
Right.
But they also highlight how important communication is.
Really? I never would have thought of that as like a key skill for someone working with circuits all day.
Well, think about it. I mean, how are these engineers going to explain their designs to other people, like their colleagues or clients?
Oh, that's true.
And what about the marketing team, right? They need to be able to communicate those complex ideas in a way that everyone understands.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're saying that it's not enough to just be good with technology, you also have to be a good communicator.
Exactly.
Huh.
Who knew? And that's not the only surprise. RoleCatcher also found that hands-on experience is super important too. Like, yeah, you can study theory all you want, but there's no substitute for actually building stuff, troubleshooting problems, that kind of thing.
So like someone who enjoys taking apart their old electronics and putting them back together, that's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, RoleCatcher actually recommends that people work on personal projects, even if it's just for fun.
Oh, interesting.
It shows that you've got initiative, and that you're passionate about hardware.
Yeah, it's like you're building that foundation.
Exactly.
So how do you go from like tinkering in your basement to actually having a career in hardware engineering? What does that path look like?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, most people start out in entry-level positions, like an assistant engineer.
Okay.
And in those roles, you're basically shadowing more experienced engineers,
Hmm.
you know, getting a feel for how things work in the industry.
Gotcha. So like paying your dues
Exactly.
before you really get your hands dirty.
Exactly. And then as you gain experience, you might move into a junior computer hardware engineer role. And that's where you start taking on more responsibility, collaborating with teams more, maybe even writing technical documentation.
Okay, so less coffee runs, more actual engineering work.
Exactly. And this is also where people start to specialize.
Oh, interesting.
You might find that you're really interested in circuit design, or maybe embedded systems are more your thing.
So you're figuring out what you actually like to do within the field.
Exactly.
So what happens next?
Well, that's when you start moving towards that senior computer hardware engineer role.
Okay.
And at that level, you're leading projects, you're managing teams. You might even be the one doing feasibility studies, to see if a new product idea is even possible.
So it's a lot more than just, building a circuit board.
Exactly.
You're really thinking about the big picture.
Right. And RoleCatcher talks about how, there's a lot of responsibility at this level.
I bet.
You're dealing with tight deadlines, complex projects.
Right.
And there's always pressure to innovate, to come up with the next big thing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's not easy, that's for sure.
But I mean, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Exactly.
And probably a pretty great salary too, I'm guessing.
Speaking of, RoleCatcher actually mentions a salary range for computer hardware engineers.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
So they say it's anywhere from $68,000 to $150,000 a year.
Wow. Okay, so earning potential is definitely there. But this isn't the kind of job where you can just like learn everything once and then coast, right?
No, definitely not.
Because technology changes so fast.
Exactly, you're right.
So how do you keep up?
Well, RoleCatcher emphasizes how important continuous learning is in this field.
Okay.
Because new technologies are always emerging, faster processors, AI integration,
Right.
and of course, the Internet of Things.
Okay, hold on. Can we back up for a second? What exactly is the Internet of Things?
Sure.
I mean, I've heard the term, but I'm not really sure what it means.
Yeah, so basically it refers to like all those devices and appliances that are connected to the Internet.
Okay.
Like, smart refrigerators that can order groceries for you,
Oh.
or thermostats you can control with your phone.
Gotcha.
That's the Internet of Things.
So, like, everything is connected.
Exactly.
And how do computer hardware engineers fit into all of this?
Well, they're the ones designing the hardware that makes all those smart devices possible,
Oh, I see.
like the sensors, the processors, all that stuff.
That's really cool.
So yeah, they're basically shaping how we live our lives.
But with all this talk about automation and AI, I mean, are there even going to be any human hardware engineers left in the future?
That's a good question, and it's something that RoleCatcher actually addresses.
Oh, okay.
And interestingly, they actually predict steady job growth in this field.
Really? Why is that?
Well, they say that while AI and automation are really good at repetitive tasks, they still can't replace the creativity and problem-solving skills that hardware engineers bring to the table.
So there's still hope for us humans.
There is.
That's good to know. Yeah.
But what about remote work? Is there any chance of that in this field?
So RoleCatcher does mention that remote work is becoming more common for hardware engineers,
Oh,
especially in the early stages of a project, like during the design and development phase.
that makes sense.
But it's not all perfect.
Oh, really? Why
Yeah.
not? So you're saying it's not all like working from the beach?
Yeah, it's not quite that glamorous.
Right.
I mean, think about it. You've still got those deadlines, those complex projects,
True.
and trying to manage all of that remotely across different time zones, it can be really tough.
Yeah, communication can be tricky, even when everyone's in the same room.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
right? Between flexibility and, actually getting work done.
Okay, so we've talked about the skills, the career path, even the potential downsides.
Hmm.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious about something.
Yeah, what's that?
So far, we've been focusing a lot on the hardware side of things.
Right.
But what about software? I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can't have one without the other.
So how does a computer hardware engineer, how do they navigate that relationship?
Well, it's interesting because RoleCatcher actually talks about how that relationship is changing.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, it used to be that hardware was king.
Yeah, like the faster the processor, the better.
Exactly. But these days, software is becoming more and more important.
Interesting.
It's not just about the physical components anymore. It's about how the software interacts with those components.
That makes sense.
So hardware engineers today, they need to have at least a basic understanding of software development.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They don't necessarily have to be coding experts or anything, but they need to understand the principles.
So it's more about being adaptable, right?
Exactly.
Having that broader understanding of how everything fits together.
Right. And that brings us back to what we were talking about earlier, that blend of technical skills and creative problem solving.
Right. So it's not enough to just build a powerful machine.
Exactly.
You have to build a machine that, works seamlessly with the software that anticipates future needs.
Exactly.
Wow. So it's really about designing for the future.
It really is.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And, for anyone who loves technology, who loves pushing boundaries, a career as a computer hardware engineer, it really puts you right there on the cutting edge.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, if this deep dive has you inspired to, maybe try your hand at building the next big thing.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher has a ton of resources to help you get started.
They do.
They've got career guides, AI-powered tools, you name it.
It's all there.
So go check them out.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.